continue to talk about The Mandalorian, obviously on Disney Plus. Eric, I know that you obviously did not like the episode Sanctuary because Michael was a little shocked at your review that you, or what is it? Was it you or is it Steven? Maybe it was my friend Steven Reed. Someone completely hated this episode. Did you completely hate this episode?
That was my initial reaction when I first watched it, and so I decided to go ahead and watch it again. This time with my kids, because my kids are here. They're normally not here during the week, but they happen to be here, so I watched it with one of my daughters, and I wanted to watch it a little bit through her eyes as well, because she loves Baby Yoda, she enjoys the show, and so I wanted to kind of sit there and watch it in a different environment after kind of my initial reaction, my initial reaction was just, man, it was bad. I was just really upset. I felt like there was like a bait and switch that had happened to me, that I was like, oh, I thought this show was one thing. No, it's something completely different. So anyway, I watched it again right before this episode, and I watched it with one of my daughters, and I have softened on it. I still have a lot of issues with it, but I have softened on it after watching it for a second time. But I do have a lot of issues with it still. And I think one of the biggest and most valid criticisms of this episode that a lot of people are saying is, I felt it was a filler episode. I felt like it was just a deviation from the story that I felt we were leading up to. It just seemed like a little side quest, if you will, to use that analogy. So that I still feel that way. And I also feel like Baby Yoda was very cute. My kid was squealing and screeching, and every time she saw Baby Yoda on screen, because Baby Yoda was beyond cute in this episode. But a lot of people that dislike Baby Yoda, the reason they dislike Baby Yoda is because they feel that Baby Yoda is just a market grab, just an idea to sell toys, and just there's no substance to it. And I would say this episode makes that argument for them very well. That Baby Yoda was not relevant in this episode, in my opinion. So that, I think, is a bad thing, because I love Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda is my favorite thing in The Mandalorian. Absolutely, 100%. I love Baby Yoda. But I felt like Baby Yoda was kind of used like as a prop piece in this episode.
Okay. I didn't hate the episode. I didn't think it was as strong as the previous ones, because I felt like we had an obvious trajectory where we were going. I couldn't see the criticism that it was a bit of a filler episode. And with not having that many episodes, I could see where certain Mandalorian fans would be upset, because it feels like we're taking very valuable, precious time, to sit aside in this particular episode. But at the same point, in terms of story, I could see where initially the Mandalorian would be thinking we need to find somewhere to lay low, but you wouldn't have to necessarily go through the story in quite the way that they did. I didn't hate the episode, though. I thought it was fine for what it was. I enjoyed it. It to me, it was much more like that first episode. It felt like a live action Clone Wars episode is what it felt like, because even in those shows, there's always those weird little episodes where it's like, okay, well, I guess we got to kill some time, which is always kind of weird when you consider how much money they're spending,
But let's be clear. I mean, half of the series is over now. I mean, this is the 4th episode. There are only 4 episodes left.
Right. But we'll see what they do with it. We'll see, because we also know, too, that they greenlit for another season, and they're working on the other season. A good example of this, to take it back to the streaming wars and talk about DC Universe. The first season of Titans is a little weird and uneven, and for me, I found it kind of hard to watch, and I just stopped watching Titans at one point. I just gave up on it. I was just like, I don't get it, and I just stopped watching, even though some people quite love Titans. And what I come to find out later when I looked into it was that they had decided to take basically what they were building towards, what was supposed to be the final episode of Titans, which is supposed to be a big cliffhanger, possibly a reveal for Nightwing. And they decided instead, well, let's put that into season 2 of Titans, which is where Titans ends up, spoiler alert, with, you know, Dick Grayson in the Nightwing outfit, and let's play it out over 2 seasons instead of playing it out into 1. So if they were in the process of filming and making the show and they go, hey, this is really good, instead of having it be here, let's go ahead and push that out for season 2, and then it shuffles the episodes in a weird way, and then you got a spot you got to fill. So I hope that's not what they're doing, but at the same point, since we're getting a season 2, I could see being one of those weird creative decision, 11th hour, well, let's mix it up because let's push this out. You know what I mean? Because we're going to do it.
I would really hate that, because we already see, I mean, we're only 4, there's only been 4 episodes, and we obviously see, you know, to me, it feels like we see a lot of the Mandalorian side questing. Okay. And that is, even as much as I'm not liking it in this current context, it's not a bad idea to have a character like that, because then you can have sort of standalone episodes where he does different things and does things that are not necessarily part of the overarching story. But the thing that I kind of want is, I want the first season to tell me a story, and the next season can tell me a different story. See what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I would prefer. That's what I would like. Otherwise, I feel like it's just a cash grab, and that they're being disingenuous, I guess is what it comes down to, down to for me. I don't feel that's cool. I want to see a story in the first season, and then I think it would be fine to have another story in the second season. Now, are they going to do that? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if they anticipated the response to Baby Yoda, because people love Baby Yoda. I mean, my kid didn't really care about this episode that much. My daughter was just happy to see Baby Yoda in scenes,
Right.
Right. So I don't know if they anticipated that, because if Baby Yoda, for instance, is pawned off at the end of the series or something like that, I don't know how people will respond to that. But also, I'm not sure how the producers and the creators, if they anticipated how much Baby Yoda is. I said it before. I just want a Baby Yoda show. I really do at this point. I just want a Baby Yoda show. The Mandalorian is okay to me. I don't hate the Mandalorian by any means. There's a lot of things I like about it, but I'd be fine with a Baby Yoda show. I mean, just give me a Baby Yoda show and have Baby Yoda running around in a little starship, going on adventures. I'd be cool with that. I'd watch it, but we'll have to see what they're going to do. I think that would be terrible if they're basically, if that decision was made that, hey, we had this really cool idea, let's just leave it for next season. And that's why we're getting episodes like this, in my opinion, where it's kind of like, this just doesn't seem to fit into the larger narrative to me. It seems like it's a little side quest. I get the basic idea. Okay, the basic idea. This isn't a spoiler. I mean, it's called Sanctuary. It's the name of the name of the episode. That the Mandalorian's going to look for some place to cool off, to get the heat off of him, because we know the Bounty Hunter Guild is after him. We know that, and we right. guess the Imperial Remnant is after him, because we're still assuming that's the Imperial Remnant. That seems to be everybody's theory. So it does make sense that he would try to look for some place that's inconspicuous to take the baby and hide out. I get that. I get that basic idea. It's just that the way that it was executed, I had a lot of problems with, and I thought there were a lot of like, I'm noticing a lot of logic and like story errors in the show that really irk me. And for instance, this is not a huge spoiler, okay, but it's like a mild spoiler, I guess. I don't consider it a spoiler to just tell you who a character is, but the female character that's introduced. Well, there's 2 major female characters that are introduced. Two big female characters introduced in this episode, and one of them is a villager who's like a part of a civilian population, that typical idyllic village, right, scenario.
Right.
And the other one is a soldier, okay, a straight up soldier, and a former rebel, which I thought was interesting, right? This is the first time we've met anybody from the rebellion, okay? And that should have been a bigger moment than it was. I mean, they treated it like an afterthought, just a basic casual conversation. This is the first time we get to see anybody from the rebellion in this show. And we're told she's a shock trooper, which I don't ever remember any rebel shock troopers. But, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not like familiar with all the EU stuff or anything like that. I just thought that was a little weird. The rebels are not shock troopers. They're rebels. They're kind of like commandos. They're kind of like hit and run, guerrilla style. They're not, but whatever. Okay. So anyway, but she's a rebel shock trooper, and she said her I guess her introduction to the Galactic Civil War was to clean up. She was involved with the cleanup on Endor, not necessarily the primary battle, which I thought was interesting. The way she phrased that was that she was involved with the cleanup on Endor of basically getting rid of the last of the garrison. And then apparently she went off fighting these remnants, the warlords. And then eventually she got to the point where it's like, okay, now we're just peacekeepers. Now we're like, protecting politicians and stuff like that. And I didn't sign up for that. I'm out. Right. So it was very casual. And to me, it's like, this should have been treated as a much bigger deal. And I wish we had gotten a little bit more insight into, what's going on other than this sort of casual, like, oh, well, the politicians need bodyguards and stuff. And they want to keep the peace and deal with riots and stuff like that. And that's just not my bag, I'm just like, okay.
Right.
But I'll tell you this. I was making some comments when I was watching with my daughter, and they were snarky comments, And my daughter said something that I thought was kind of cool, which I don't think this is what happened, but it's just kind of interesting to see how other people look at things. And she said, Dad, what if she's lying? What if she's not a rebel at all? And I thought that would be cool. If she lied and she isn't what she said she was, and she's something completely different, I could dig that. I could dig that a lot. But I just don't feel watching the show that it has the depth or the courage to do something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
That's a very interesting idea, and the show has surprised me a little bit in the first couple of episodes. So they might do something interesting like that. It'd be an interesting twist. So
I think it'd be an awesome twist. I mean, I think clearly she's meant to come back again, but we can't be sure because, interestingly enough, the main picture that shows up, when you bring up the Mandalorian on Disney Plus, like the little teaser picture, it's the Mandalorian with the IG unit and this character, right?
Right.
I keep saying this character. What's her name? Cara Dune. Cara Dune.
Yeah.
Right? So this is Cara Dune, right? And Cara Dune we're being told is a rebel shock trooper, who's as we understand it, her first job was to clean up Endor. After the Battle of Endor, she was there getting rid of the last Imperials, and then that was her job after that. What she was helping to root out the Empire, and then once the Rebel Alliance started to take over, started to become more of a political force, and they needed more of a policing thing. She's like, I'm out because I'm not into that, which I'm not sure if I'm like, is that really a good character that you don't want to actually, be involved with like the actual keeping of the peace and actually helping people and all that kind of stuff. That's neither here nor there, I guess. But I do think it would be interesting if she was lying. If she was lying, then I would feel like, oh, they got me. Actually, this is a much better episode than I thought. But I just don't feel like this series would take a chance like that. I think she's exactly what she said she was, and I have a big problem with that because getting into more spoiler territory. Although I think a lot of people already know this, there's a scene where we see an ATST, right, a Scout Walker,
right,
that apparently has been repurposed by these bandits who are harassing this village, and They figure this out right away because they can see the footprints and they know exactly what it is they're up against, right?
Right.
And her initial reaction is, okay, well, yeah, I'm done. This is too much for me to handle. I didn't sign up for this, which I'm not sure why she signed up for this in the first place. That didn't make sense to me either because she basically told the Mandalorian to leave. This is her planet. Go away. But then she's going off with them. again, these are little writing problems, just like they irk me, you know? I'm like, so anyway, she decides that she's going to do this. She's going to help these villagers. And they find out that they're up against an ATST, and she's all like, okay, I'm out. Didn't you say earlier that you fought at Endor and the Ewoks beat these things with trees?
Right.
I'm like, a lot of people have said that too. It's like, okay, were you, so maybe. Again, that's part of what my daughter's insight was. It's better than mine. Well, maybe she is lying, because as far as I could tell, the Ewoks and the rebellion ate those things for breakfast. So it seems weird. So I guess with that, if I'm proven wrong and she is in fact lying, she made this all up and she is completely something different, I will totally look at this episode in a completely different way. But as it is, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense that she would be intimidated, even intimidated by an ATST, if she had anything to do with the Battle of Endor, because they destroyed those things like nothing. With a bunch of Ewoks.
Right.
So why would she be intimidated? It'd be like, she should be like savoring this, being like, oh, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how to take these things out. We took these things out with a bunch of primitives, a bunch of teddy bears. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you cut up a bunch of trees, you put them on one side, maybe a little bit on the other side, and then as it walks through, you just cut the rope, and then the trees trip it up, and then it falls down. I saw that movie.
Yeah. No, but she's saying she was there.
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about the fact that if she was on Endor, she should know all kinds of amazing ways to stop a Skywalker. So
yeah, exactly.
I didn't think about that.
Unless my daughter's right and she's just lying, which that would be a great twist if she's lying. And then I will admit I would look at this episode completely differently if that's what it turns out, that she's some sort of a huckster. You know what I mean? That would totally change it. But I just don't think they have the depth, you know what I mean, in the writing to do something like that, because I do think that this is a live action cartoon in a lot of ways. And I think that's in good ways and bad ways, because some of this stuff is just so superficial. It just doesn't fit for me with the logic test. It's like, you know, I can suspend my disbelief quite a bit. I mean, I love Star Wars. I can suspend my disbelief quite a bit. I can believe in the Force, you know, within certain you know, like I've said, I still don't like the idea that the baby is only force has the only reason the baby has force powers is because it's from the same species as Yoda, and the Yoda species just all have force powers. I hate that idea. What I prefer to think is this baby is 50 years old and somebody taught it how to do this. Okay?
Right.
That's what I would like to believe. That's in my head canon, because I like Baby Yoda. I want to believe, hey, this is not, it acts like a child, but it's not really a child. It's 50 years old. So someone could have taught it how to use the Force. Or it could have a direct connection to Yoda, being Yoda's offspring or Yoda's clone. Okay? So that would make more sense to me. All right. But and I don't want to badmouth Baby Yoda, because I love Baby Yoda. But the thing is, at a certain point, I kind of start to lose my suspension of disbelief, and then I'm kind of like, okay, that doesn't make any sense with what you just told me 5 minutes ago. You told me 5 minutes ago you were at the Battle of Endor, or at least you were in the mop-up crew. But they didn't tell you stories of how they took these things down,
right?
And how they took them down with a bunch of Ewoks.
Yeah.
And you're intimidated? That this tough warrior woman is intimidated when she was there?
Right.
So, you know, there's some logic problems that I have where I just feel like there were these leaps that were like, they were just like a little too far for me, you know?
No, I can totally see that. I hadn't considered the fact that if she was at the Battle of Endor, or been around a bunch of rebel soldiers who had been at the Battle of Endor, that she would have heard all kinds of crazy stories about, you know, all the crazy stuff they did, you know, and how effective a bunch of teddy bears were against the Empire. She would have probably gotten sick of hearing those stories, I would imagine, because they would have just kept going on and on about it. And see, she doesn't really fit my mental image of what I thought, because when we first saw the trailer and I knew she was going to be in the show, I didn't do a lot of heavy research. But for some reason in my mind, I thought she was a female Mandalorian. Because,
by the way, I'm very glad they didn't do that, because a Mandalorian without the mask, I don't want it.
Well, see, what I thought they were going to do is she was going to be like a disgraced Mandalorian. She didn't have her helmet. She's out on the outskirts because, and she's having a hard time surviving because she was cast out by her tribe. And I thought that the role that they were going to play is that he knew her from, when they were younger or something, and they had a connection, and he was like, well, I can look past that, kind of idea. And then they were going to team up together because right now, he's kind of on the run. I guess that's, that was just what I was thinking. I was thinking that she was like maybe a form, kind of like a, I want to say Ronin, but I know a Ronin is a master of the samurai, but that kind of idea. She was going to be the Ronin equivalent of whatever a Mandalorian is. And she had lost her helmet and she was disgraced, and she was kind of out on her own. She didn't have the tribe to back her up, and he was going to come across her on this planet and go, hey, you help me out with the kid here. Like I thought it was going to be that kind of thing, but it is very much a side adventure, and it didn't fulfill my mental images of what it was going to be at all. Like I said, I didn't hate the episode. I thought it was fine.
What was your first reaction to finding out that she was a rebel?
I thought it was cool, but at the same point when she said shock trooper, I was a little thrown off, because that doesn't, in my mind, that's not what a rebel soldier would be.
No, that doesn't fit a rebel. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. I mean, look at the Resistance and how pathetic they are.
Right.
And this is supposed to be after the New Republic. They're pathetic. Right. They don't have any shock troopers. I remember looking at the Rebel Trooper toy from The Force Awakens. He looks pathetic. He looks like a peasant, Right. So it's like some of this stuff is just like, but again, hey, if my daughter's right, that would be cool. Yeah, if she just lying through her teeth, I
like that story a lot better. That she was lying. She turns out to, maybe she's a former Imperial shock trooper,
Right. Yeah, that would be really cool, right? Yeah.
She didn't know any of the battles of, about what happened in Endor, because she was someplace completely different.
She ran away.
Yeah.
Maybe she ran away. That would, but do you think they would? I don't think they would be daring enough to make choices like that. I think that she's kind of just supposed to be what you see. Because I think, going back to the live action cartoon analogy, there's good and bad with that, and typically with the cartoon type writing, what you see is what you get. You know what I mean?
Right. And we'll see. That's gonna be the litmus test. Moving forward, we're gonna see where these characters end up. Because where we find them at this stage in the show and where they are by the time that we're getting towards the last episode, there should be some development and some change, and maybe the characters will be different. So we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, I didn't hate this episode. To me, it was kind of more in tune with like the first episode, which, like I said, I felt like was like a live action Clone Wars episode. That's not a bad thing if you like Clone Wars, but I didn't think it was good as the second or the third. Those episodes I thought were absolutely outstanding. And I thoroughly loved them. I still enjoyed this episode. I'm still really enjoying the show. But like I said, I hadn't quite seen some of the logic gaps and other things that you were pointing out either. I didn't scrutinize the show quite that heavy, but I did remember when she said she was a rebel shock trooper. In the back of my head, I'm like going, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why the rebellion would have shock troopers? Like, aren't they a ragtag fleet? And they're just cobbling together with whoever they can find. It does fit a little bit with the more militaristic, hardline idea that they tried to give us, or they did give us in Rogue One. Cassian Andor is not exactly, when he shoots that other guy at the beginning of, spoiler, Rogue One, he shows us a darker side to the rebellion than I think we had thought of.
They're rebel spies, though. I mean, that's direct from the crawler of the original Star Wars. They're spies. You know what I mean? That's what they do.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
that's the idea I got from Rogue One. Is these
No,
are the spies who stole the rebel plan. So they're gritty. They have to be gritty because that's what spies do. They assassinate people. You know,
I know,
because for them, information is the most important thing. Information is power, literally. So they can. I mean, that just makes complete sense to me. That makes complete sense to me. It's not the same thing as a shock trooper that goes in and cleans out legions of stormtroopers that are entrenched on a planet. You know?
Yeah. It was. I don't know. Those are just my impressions. You know, like I said, I hadn't quite seen it and seen the logic gaps, but when you point them out, especially the idea that if the character had been on Endor, then she'd have much more interesting ideas of how to stop a walker than a scout walker anyway than what they did. So
right. So I did want to at least give because a lot of people are not talking about this character. I don't even remember her name. Do you remember her name?
No, I do not.
So because everybody's talking about Cara Dune, but a lot of people aren't really talking about this character, which is the other major female character that was introduced in this episode. And this is the villager who is also a mother who was involved with defending their village against these marauders. And again, kind of in the, I think, just minor spoiler territory. This episode's been compared a lot to what the Magnificent Seven, right? Like the idea of these or the Seven Samurai, right?
Seven Samurai. Well, Magnificent Seven was inspired by Seven Samurai. It all comes back around, which goes back to my thing where I talked about Battle Beyond the Stars, which Battle Beyond the Stars was inspired by Star Wars and also, you know, Magnificent Seven and Seven Samurai. It's supposed to be Magnificent Seven or Seven Samurai. Well, actually, Magnificent Seven in space. And I thought it's interesting how it all kind of circles around this similar watering hole. So.
And obviously the Mandalorian is literally the man with no name. I mean, he's the Mandalorian.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but the thing is with this character is in that scenario. She's one of the villagers. One of the interesting things I thought, and people have picked up on this, but they haven't talked about it a lot, is they have the moment where they're trying to train the villagers, and the villagers are completely inept for the most part and pathetic. Especially like there were the two male characters were like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, I thought. I mean, they were clearly like just comic relief, I guess. I don't know. I thought they were silly. The guys who hired the Mandalorian, those guys, I thought they were just kind of pathetic, quite frankly. But anyway, this character kind of becomes a love interest for the Mandalorian, which I thought that was kind of a little weird because that was way too rushed. But the thing that I was kind of intrigued about a little bit is when they're doing the training, apparently she has training.
Yeah.
So what's that?
I said she can shoot.
Correct. So I feel like we're definitely going to see this character again, and I kind of speculate on her origin. You know what I mean? It seems kind of weird that there would be, you know, two rebels here on the same planet that have no idea about each other or whatever. So that might be too much. But apparently she had some sort of training. You know, I guess you could say maybe she knew how to hunt or something like that. There's certainly lots of people that are great shots that are hunters or things like that. But I feel like we're going to see this character again, and I am a little bit intrigued about what her backstory might be, as far as where she got that training and what she actually is. I think it's a little strange. I mean, why is she on this backwater planet in this pathetic little village? If she does have some sort of crazy backstory, you know,
right?
Is she hiding from something the same way that the Mandalorian was? She seemed a little too wholesome for that. That was so. I'd be curious to see what they're going to do with her because you think she'll be back?
I don't know. I mean, if this was truly just a side episode, no, not at all. But if it turns out that Gina Carano's character, which is the Cara Dunes, if she shows up at some point and it turns out that her backstory is a lot more elaborate and interesting than what we were told, I wouldn't be surprised for this character to show back up too. I wouldn't get and literally maybe in trailing the other character because she knows that the other character was lying. You know what I mean? And might be looking to betray the Mandalorian. She might show up and have the Mandalorian's back in a situation in which he doesn't realize he needs someone to have his back. So within that context, I can, but initially off the top of my head, I'm going to say probably not, because I do feel like maybe this was just a side adventure. So,
well, one scenario that I could see, and I don't think necessarily this is just a scenario I could see is obviously we had a situation where it's very clear that the Bounty Hunter Guild is still looking for the baby Yoda. And that's why the Mandalorian decides to leave the planet. There's an interesting consequence of that. And again, we'll see. It's based on the strength of the writing. If this bounty hunter was able to find them on this planet, it seems to me that they would go back to this planet to find more information on the Mandalorian, of where he might be going, what was he doing. And so what I'm imagining is a scenario where either the Imperial Remnant or the Bounty Hunter Guild kidnap this woman, take her and kind of use her as bait to get the Mandalorian. So that's a scenario that I could see happening, and then it would make sense to have her back. The thing that I thought was really weird was the whole, they kind of had this little thing where they were kind of playing with this idea that, the Mandalorian's just going to take his armor off and spend the rest of his life with this woman. And I was just like, after 5 minutes, really?
Right.
5 minutes, and she's never even seen the guy without his mask. It makes me think it would be so funny if they actually did show him take his mask off, and he's just ugly as sin, he's just all screwed up, his eyes are falling out, you know what I mean, which would make sense. Right. He's a warrior, right? So it would be he's just all screwed up and disgusting looking, and there's pus coming out of him, but it seemed funny and silly to me that she was already falling in love with this guy, and they kind of play with this idea of the Mandalorian just gonna he's just gonna take the armor off and just settle down and all that kind of stuff, which I don't think he entertained that, but that kind of narrative was being put out there. I don't see that scenario. If they did that, I'm going to be really angry if that's what happens. The last episode of The Mandalorian is just him kicking his feet up in the little village, and we get to see his face and all that kind of stuff, and he's hanging out with this lady, and that's roll credits.
Well, you never know, that maybe that's what leads to Baby Yoda getting in his own ship in disgust and flying off. Maybe that's the beginning of your Baby Yoda show.
Okay, then I could dig it, because he was playing with the controls, right? So
yeah.
He just kind of just takes off by himself. Yeah,
he just gets in the ship and he's just I've had all this I can take. This is disgusting. He just flies off the planet by himself.
This is disgusting.
He's I'm just going to find my own purpose out amongst the stars.
I like that. Okay, I could dig it. But I do. I'm trying to figure out, because I think this character is going to come back. I think that I hope that they wouldn't set us up for something like that without giving us any payoff at all, because clearly there's something different about her. Literally,
right.
The other villagers are pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Right. So,
and the village is already playing a different role in the show in this episode than what I thought it was going to play too. Because what I thought they were going to do is I thought they were going to do a spin on the Lone Ranger idea, and he was going to get bushwhacked and maybe almost killed. And then he was going to wind up on this village where he was going to be nursing back to health. And then, we'd see a recreation of the scene with the Lone Rangers, shooting his 2 pistols, kind of idea. And as he's recuperating, and then he has a connection to a different kind of tribe than just the Mandalorians. And then he goes back out, you know what I mean? And kind of completes the mission he was trying to complete when he was basically kind of taken off the board. So,
I like your story a lot better, to be honest with you. I think that would have been a much better story, and it would have made sense, because he could have gotten hurt in that last huge battle, which would have made sense. He was totally outnumbered and everything. He could have been all beaten up and all that stuff, and that would have made a ton of sense. But like I said, some of the writing concerns me in this show, because it's so thin. Again, I think the live action cartoon, the good and the bad of it, is just it's what this show is. It is a live action cartoon.
Yeah. All right, so I guess that's good. It's if you feel comfortable with that, for our thoughts on the latest episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, unless there was anything else that you wanted to say. I mean, you said you liked it, so I would like to ask you, what is the thing that you just like really pulled you in? What is it that you really liked about this episode?
I'll be honest with you, I liked a lot of stuff with Baby Yoda.
Everybody loves Baby Yoda.
Yeah, it was just a lot of and I like the idea that they kept to the lore that they established with the Mandalorian not taking his helmet off. You know, for half a second there, when she went to take his helmet off, I was like, man, don't do it already. You know, like at least get us a couple seasons in before you do it. Because if they take his helmet off and it's not Boba Fett and he survived the Sarlacc pit, I'm going to be horribly devastated.
Just don't do it. Don't take his helmet off. I don't understand any fan that wants to see his face. Who cares? Why? You know what I mean? Like,
I only want to see his face is if it's really Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And he's all messed up, like you said earlier, and she'd be disgusted. But no, I mean, like, if he's all messed up because he crawled out of the Sarlacc pit. And the reason he doesn't have his other armor is because it was destroyed. And the reason he doesn't have his ship is because someone stole it, you know?
But we do know who he is. I mean, we know that he's not Boba Fett. We've seen the flashbacks.
No, I'm just saying.
We know that he's from some other culture. He's not an actual Mandalorian. He's adopted.
Allow me to have my delusions.
I'm just going with what they're giving us.
I know, but I'm backing up what you're saying because I'm in the same boat. It's like, don't take the helmet off, because if you can't take the helmet off and show me that it's been Boba Fett all along, I don't want his helmet to come off.
Right.
I don't want his helmet to come off at all. But that was one of the things I did like about this episode. I love the idea that they toyed with it, but they actually didn't do it. Because I'm like, we're 4 episodes in. I could see someone making the decision. I was like, nah, it's time to take the helmet off, you know. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. Because in the back of my head, I'm like, well, they just said the helmet goes
firmly
off.
Established even more.
Sorry, we had another
we
dropped again.
We lost the feed for a little bit. What were you saying?
Well, all I was just saying is just they established that if he takes the helmet off, he can't put it back on.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was kind of my thing. It's like, don't do that. Like, just don't even go there. So one of the other things I did like about this episode is, even though he's got this lady and he's tempted to do it, he kept going, no, don't touch my helmet. Don't touch my helmet. And I like that they kept to, what they established. Because for half a second there, I thought, well, here we go. It's going to be like Judge Dredd. He's going to take the Stallone version anyway. He's going to take the helmet off, and he's never going to put it back on. And then it's not even the Mandalorian. It's random guy adventures in space.
What's the actor, right?
Pedro Pascal, and he's a good actor. I don't mean to knock him at all. It's just I love the lore and I love the look, and I want to keep that. So I love the fact that in this episode they kept the lore, and they stuck to it. That's what gives me hope for the show moving forward. Because I didn't hate this episode, but I didn't think it was good as the last 2. But one of the things I do like about this show is like they stuck to the lore. So I think that they're, you know what I mean? They're going to continue to build and do the world building, which I was enjoying. So.
Yeah, and I do hope that continues. I do not want to see his face.
Yeah. So those are the 2 things that I did enjoy that sucked me in. I like the idea they stuck to the lore about the helmet, and I just liked all the stuff with Baby Yoda. Because it was when she talked about, she's like, oh, there's a way we can stop the walker. And then I saw what they came up with. I was like, okay, I get it. But at the same point, having watched, Return of the Jedi, I know there's all kinds of ways they could have stopped that walker. So it might have been maybe even a little bit less work. So anyhow, yeah. But so is that good for our thoughts on The Mandalorian?
Yeah, I think so.